In a world where the podcast multiverse is a concept about which we know frighteningly little, two dudes must become something greater than themselves, something elemental, something terrifying, a podcast. With great podcasting, there must also be great responsibility. To show the multiverse that it's full of people ready to believe in good. The multiverse will hunt us. They will send the dogs on us, because that's what needs to happen. But it won't be ready to hear from us. Not us, united. I got 3 questions for you, Michael.
Please.
Have you ever had nightmares?
Yes.
Have you ever been in an alley?
Yeah.
Have you seen a movie called Nightmare Alley?
Whoa, Nick, you're not going to believe this.
Did you answer yes to all 3?
I answered yes to all 3.
Well, then it looks like you just found yourself into episode 30 with Not Us United.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to our review of Nightmare Alley. And if that was not the best setup I've ever heard for an introduction, I don't know what you guys expect.
You know how long it took me to write that little ditty?
I think you just came up with it now.
You're damn right.
That's how we do here. We're fast. We're improv. Nick took improv in college or in high school.
I did.
In college?
Made it to state a few times.
Whoa. Hold on. Review's on hold, everybody. You went to state? There's a state for improv?
Yeah, so you do a district speech meet, and then if you get like a 1 or like a 1+, they like rate you or whatever.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
What's the highest number?
I think it's a 1+, and then there's a 1, and then it goes down. So like it's like gold
0?
is 1, so it's like a gold plus, a gold, and then it's a silver, so it's a 2 plus 2.
Oh,
and then
so
a bronze is
it's
3
a number
plus
number 1. Oh, so 3 plus is bad.
So there's 6 positions essentially.
Okay.
You can have the best,
which is 1 plus.
1+,
And the worst
is
is 3.
1.
Is 3.
And so, yes, and you would have 3 judges critique you. I think in districts it was just 1, and if that one gave you a 1+, that automatically puts you into
at least
the
higher,
top,
yeah.
and then they decide from the top who gets to go.
Dang, so you got some 1 pluses?
Yeah, so sophomore year 1+ got into state.
Yeah.
And we got, I believe, 3 1+s at state, and they didn't take us to all state.
Why?
Great question. They were very, what's the word?
Dumb? Stupid?
Our improv tended to lean heavier into humor than it did to just being creative.
Oh, sure.
While they thought we were creative, a lot of our material was recycled from old Saturday Night Live sketches that we meshed together. They didn't know that, but it never excelled us above. We would kind of like do that. Hey, remember like when Will Ferrell would do that? Let's kind of like
do something
mix
like
that. And so we'd use it to build a far more deeper sketch in 5 minutes, because we would already have like, okay,
basis.
So Act 1 is like Chris Farley being this and this, and we're going to do silly things. Not say they're quotes, but it kind of gave us like placeholders for like, what are we doing? What kind of character am I playing?
Mm-hmm.
And so we would kill, like, the audiences would just love us, and we even got enough of a reputation that by senior year, when we made it to state, we had like a crowd of like 100 people watch us.
Let's go.
It's
Dude,
awesome.
This is exciting, and something I did not know about my boy Nicky K.
Oh yeah,
That was exciting. That was great. I hope everyone enjoyed as much.
Self-identify as a king of improv.
I don't know if you need to self-identify as that, because I think 100 other people have agreed with you.
That's right.
Well, to improv this back into our original topic. Whoa. Did I take improv?
Whoa.
Yes, I did not.
Dang, 1+ in my books.
Whoa. We will be discussing the newest film by director Guillermo del Toro.
Oh, dude, that sounds good.
Yeah.
It sounds real good in my ears right now. Can you do it one more time?
Sounds real good.
Let me try. Guillermo del Toro.
Oh, yeah, I like that. Guillermo del Toro. Guillermo.
The Mask of Zorro? No, Guillermo del Toro.
Guillermo del Toro. Guillermo del Toro, he directed Hellboy. He directed Shape of Water, which won the Oscar. He also directed Pan's Labyrinth.
Yeah, he's a big monster boy.
Yeah. Yes. And that he likes his yes, the monsters, but he is also about like, there's a little bit more to him than just like,
but very practical effects too.
Yes.
Not a lot of CGI monstery stuff.
No, especially in this movie, like it's very realistic. He did like a lot of stuff where was on sets, and while this may not be very monstery focused and heavy, it does very much feel like a Guillermo del Toro movie.
Yes, it does fit his vibe. And I would say that this movie does still have monsters in it.
Well, we'll get into that.
We'll get into that.
You'll hear it.
You'll hear it. But that's what's beautiful is like what you're expecting from him, you still kind of get. Mm-hmm. It just might not be in the supernatural sense that you would think of as a monster.
Yes, that's very true. So this movie stars mainly Bradley Cooper. Follows his journey as a aspiring carny at this carnival.
Yeah.
And all the weird characters that he meets and leads him down some different paths.
Yeah. A lot of supporting roles, but by like big names who are willing to only have like 20 minutes of the movie. Yeah, so like I thought that was wild.
A classic Guillermo guy, Ron Perlman is in here.
Willem Dafoe.
Willem Dafoe's hot off the presses from Green Goblin.
Whew.
Yeah, I think it is just an all-star cast. I think we'll do a little non-spoiler review, but I think the world in which is built is really good and it works.
Yes.
That is probably the shining example of this movie. I think it just it puts you into this world that's like, oh, I get it. Like I know what's going on. I know there's like some kind of like something more to it, but the world works. The acting works. For me, and I think for you as well, it's a weaker second act.
Yeah.
And I don't think
typically the second act is never the strongest act to begin with. So I think there is some of that just naturally happens.
No, and I get that.
Yeah.
And I think it tries for a little bit more than I think it deserves in a sense. I don't know if that makes sense, but like it's trying for something higher and doesn't quite get to that point for me. Like I understand it. It's like going to the end. I'm like, okay, I get what you're doing here. And it is 2.5 hours long. It is a little lengthy of a movie, but
it feels like it's trying to build towards something very grandiose, but the story itself is kind of this intimate, grounded story. And so I think that's where you're feeling that like it doesn't quite vibe with what it's truly trying to do. Like it kind of made it seem like the stakes are high. Well, for like two people, like I mean, like you're right, but it's not like world-breaking like stakes, So there is,
which is fine. I mean, like I don't mind that.
I enjoy. This movie is very intimate. I mean, the camera is right on everyone. Yeah. There's no real wide shots in this movie. I mean, it is right in your face, and I agree. Carnivals have never really been like flashy, in my opinion. I've always felt like there's some weird darkness kind of involved with them, especially like old time like carnival stuff, and I think this definitely leans heavy into that. The aesthetic right from the start is very well done.
It's dark and grimy almost. Yeah,
the dark, like it leans heavily into like the desires of the people to see something that's not something they would typically see every day. Kind of like flirting that temptation of what else is out there, this dark curiosity kind of. And I think that does a good job because the theme of this whole film kind of it invokes that dark curiosity throughout it, and so I think the carnival was the right call. I mean, this story probably could be copy and pasted into another type of culture or world, but I do think that it used its aesthetic well.
Yeah, what the theme of the carnival and the world of the carnival lends itself to where this movie goes.
Yeah.
And this like kind of like show.
Yep.
This kind of image that Bradley Cooper becomes. So I think it wraps up. It wraps that up very nicely.
Yes.
I think you described it well, and if you would describe what you pitched to our friend of the first, second, and third act of like the first act. Whoa.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
That was perfect definition.
this was like, I kind of have like a scientific method of how I describe movies, but I would say first act of this movie is nice. Second act, and then like third act, whoa,
Yeah.
baby, nice.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That as funny as it sounds, that is literally what this movie is, though.
Yeah.
Like that is like, oh, it really kicks into gear, that third act, and
Yeah. And it is very circular. Sorry.
circular.
That's the word of the night. I agree.
Yeah.
We win tonight. It starts in a very familiar place to where it ends, and I think that it does a good job. I'm not spoiling anything. Even if you watch this movie and you're like, "Oh, carnival, blah, blah, what is he getting at?" It's like, I mean, it's a carnival movie, so I'm not spoiling anything there. But I think it does a very good job of the seeds it plants, even at the start of this movie, come to fruition by the end of it. And so I do think it is a very clean movie, and by that I just mean like I think it achieves its goal.
Yes.
Well,
To my point of it achieving its goal, I'm like, yes, it achieves its goal, but where I'm like, does it earn that goal necessarily?
Sure.
Not quite, I don't think, in my book.
Yeah.
Like I get when we got to, I'm like, oh, I'm there.
yeah,
But like I don't think it quite was like, yes, I was there the entire ride.
yeah. It's like when you're turning up the like volume, you typically want to like ease your way into making something louder.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like this movie's kind of like 1 to 4. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And then it just kind of stays at 4, and then it goes 11.
Yeah.
And you're just like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like, okay. I wasn't even like at 7. Like this jump was large, you know, like, and not, I think people will get that, but like, when you're watching this film, there is this level of like, okay, so when's the other shoe gonna drop? And then it drops like hard and fast, and then the movie just goes
And just
over.
goes, yeah.
It's like, whoa.
Yeah.
And maybe that was its whole point.
Yeah.
I think it ended super well, so I
Agreed.
think it was very strong, but I think I wouldn't have minded that 4 to 7 increase of just like, give me just a little bit more before you go straight to 11. So my ears are kind of ready, if that is a
I think
good
that's
metaphor.
Again, that's a great analogy of it. And I mean, like, I'm still like, I don't want to be like I'm on the fence here, but like, would it, if there was the slight gentle increase, would it have made this movie worse, in my opinion, or does it the immediacy of what happens at the near the end, last like 30 minutes or so, is it so shocking because of like, oh, it's kind of, everything's kind of normal for a while, but like, yeah, I don't know.
Without getting into spoilers, I don't know if I can.
Yeah.
But there's one character in particular where I felt like I had to be smart enough to put pieces together to make the understanding of why they did what they did. And because I did that, it's fine. But I think they could have deserved 2 more scenes to flesh that out. I think they were trying to surprise us by not giving us that. And so in trying to keep it a mystery, it didn't feel like they earned the twist.
Okay.
So that's kind of where I'm at.
I know who you're talking about, and I don't know if I would quite agree. I would agree on a different character that I would like to see more of. So
I know who you're talking about. Interesting. Look at this. This is wild. We're talking about people that you guys don't know about, but we do. Oh, what's that like?
Well, I think
Spoiler-free score.
yes. Man, it's kind of tough because I do.
Yeah.
I think overall, I think I just have a respect for this movie,
Yeah.
and I understand like watching this once, I do need to watch this again.
Yes.
Because there is more going on, and I think I would probably give it an 8.
Yeah. No, I'm right there with you. I was trying to piece together when you were talking, and I was like, what are we thinking? 8? 7.5, 8.
I think I was maybe initially 7.5, but I bumped it to 8 because I think there's more there, and that I am getting. I don't think it will get higher in my book because I still don't think all the pieces come quite together.
Yeah.
But the pieces are there, and I respect the pieces.
Yep.
Which is
I'm gonna stick to my guns, and I'm gonna go with the 7.5.
Okay.
But I'm like right there with you, where I'm like, it could grow on me. I think I could watch it again and be like, all right.
Yeah.
This took me to a new place.
Mm-hmm.
As a movie, it did its job.
Yeah.
And therefore, I think it deserves that. And my preferences towards what I would have changed, I think, are only, I like the way it's shot. I think, like I said, the aesthetic was awesome. Like, this didn't feel anti-Guillermo del Toro with not having a practical affected monster in this thing. He still, his vision and his theme still kind of like shone through. So yeah, I mean, I think there might be a few performances where I'm like, like, okay. And just those few little notches here and there, I would just knock it down a little bit. So 7.5.
Cool. Yeah, no, I'm right there with
that.
you. I kind of do want to talk to someone because I can see how someone would love this movie. And so I kind of want to get there. Like, why is this movie awesome? And like, it is getting some Oscar love.
Yeah, it is.
And I'm like, oh, cool. Yeah.
Sure.
The movie deserves it. I'm just not like, and even rating it a 7.5 or an 8, I'm like, yeah, I would recommend this to people.
Sure.
So I'm just not all the way there. So
I would love to hear from someone too. I saw there were some special showings of the black and white version.
Oh, nice.
There was like a second theatrical run.
Yeah.
But now it's on HBO and Hulu and other apps, I think. So I don't know if they'll show that, but it would be interesting to see this.
And black and white would be really neat.
Because there wasn't like, it's a dark enough theme that the color isn't really used to like vibrantly to like affect much. That I think black and white, this actually would look pretty cool. Like, it kind of does feel like it would fit that.
Well, now that you bring that up, I actually remember this movie is technically a remake.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, there was a Nightmare Alley released in like 1937 or something, and it is a black and white film.
Oh, okay. So this was like paying homage to that.
I think so.
Got it.
The connection
Same
there.
story?
I don't know. Yeah,
Okay.
I read the description. I'm like, oh, this is it.
Dang, Bradley Cooper making these like remakes, and it's like, man, this is so unique. And then I
Star
realized,
is
like,
Born.
I like watch A Star Is Born. I'm like, he killed it in that. What a movie! And then people are like, yeah, you haven't watched the other 4, and I was like, what? Like,
No, but this felt like
yeah,
it was like 90 years.
Oh, I mean,
So I'm
like
That's fine.
that many generations, not like one
Yeah.
per 20 years or whatever.
Yeah. So I will, because I think I looked up Nightmare Alley, and that one also came up, and I was like, I wonder if this, because it's a pretty
Interesting.
unique name.
Yeah, that's true.
It's not like, it's not gonna show up on other things, but yeah. So from what I could tell, it was a fairly similar, but like, modernizing it. I think this is a better version. I don't know. Again, not watching the movie. I think just like techniques and modern everything would just kind of bring this out a little bit more.
Yeah, I just had a really good idea of something that we could do in this podcast that allows us to talk about Dune.
Jeez. Classic Nick
tradition.
Tradition will never die.
There's a scene in Dune 2021 that where House Atreides accepts.
House Atreides accepts.
So what if we did this movie, Not Us United, recommends?
Oh, Not Us United recommends.
There it is. So there you go.
Okay. That is the greatest thing I've ever heard in my life. So I think wholeheartedly we could say Not Us United recommends.
Beautiful. I love it.
Go listen to our Dune episode if you want a little bit of inside joke of that. I know everyone else is listening to the Dune episode on repeat while watching Dune on HBO Max on repeat. But just a clarification. Just for,
Also available on 4K at the time of this recording. You should get it.
Oh my goodness.
Because boy, does it look good. That spice is flowing on my TV like nothing else. Anyway.
Oh man.
There's your Dune segment of the.
Anyways, here's the deep spoiler dive into Dune. So when that big old sandworm came out, oh my goodness.
now into spoiler.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
For Nightmare Alley.
Nightmare Alley.
Anyway.
Dude, when that man tore off that chicken's head.
Yeah, I had to fast forward. I was like, I'm not ready to see this.
That is probably, even though like with the whole thing at the end, like that was probably the most graphic thing for me in this whole movie.
For sure.
And I was like, oh, cool. This is the movie I'm in. 5 minutes in. Okay.
Ooh.
I'm ready. Guillermo, my guy.
Yeah, but it had to go there because it makes the end scene that much more powerful. That end scene is insane, and maybe we should leave it while we kind of build it through the spoiler. Because
just like this movie.
That end scene is...
It makes the movie, honestly.
It's the reason why that I think it sealed the deal. The movie is
made with that.
Nominated for that scene where you're just like, oh, okay, this is where it went. We were warned. We were given all the pieces, and for some, like, we still didn't. I saw it coming as soon as he went in. And I was like, this guy's gonna do the thing. And anyway,
I saw it come. Yeah, sorry.
We'll get into it, but woof. The first and the last scenes of these movies, just like, perfect. Love it.
Yeah, because I was like thinking, like, as that was that first scene was happening with the geek and like all this, I'm like, this jumped in really quickly, and like I think that is like the world building and everything. Because what happened before he got onto the bus? What happened before he got to the circus? He burned his dad. Yeah. Okay, we'll come back to that.
Yeah. Well, his house is on fire, and you see him sitting there. You don't know what else happened.
Yeah, there was that mystery there. So
it's dropping this, like, mystery, like, what's your backstory?
Yes. So he goes on the bus, and he ends up at the carnival. Then he sees the show, and then they just hire him. I don't think he speaks. Excuse me.
That was wild. For the first about 7 minutes, everyone speaks but Bradley Cooper. But Bradley Cooper's in every scene. Being talked to.
Yeah, and the first person he speaks to is the geek.
Yeah.
Put that in your pipe.
Oh,
I think so. I'm pretty sure.
Really? Not Willem Dafoe? You're probably right. Because he watches the show. No, he gets talked to.
He gets talked to. He doesn't. When he gets hired. When he gets hired, no one talks to him.
That's interesting.
Maybe.
You're right. You might.
I think he does say something about when he gets his quarter taken away.
I don't think he does.
Does he not?
I think it's when he's hunting down the geek later.
Because like I was like going through the movie, I was like, I don't think he's talked before.
No, you're right. The first person he talks to is the geek.
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
All right, it's an 8.
Oh, let's go, dude.
One scene redemption.
I think there's stuff in this movie like that we're just not seeing.
Yeah, I think a second watch through could benefit from just connecting some of the Easter eggs that they drop throughout, for sure.
Yeah. So I'm pretty sure that's true with the whole.
Yeah, we should confirm that, but even if that's not the case, let's pretend it's true.
Yeah, because I love that. But
eat your heart out, Guillermo del Toro.
My boy Guillermo. But yeah, I thought it was a very interesting to open with where he's he's carrying a dead body and burns a house, and I'm like, this is our main character, and we're rooting for him. Got it. That's not the most genuine thing, or like to get the audience on his side, but ultimately,
it doesn't give you enough to hate him yet because you're just like, what is happening?
Don't know. Yeah, you don't know
what's happening.
Yeah, and then he sleeps with the dude's wife.
Oh, they're together, you think?
Oh, I thought so.
I thought she was like his caregiver.
Oh. Maybe. They at least have probably some kind of open relationship. I don't know.
Interesting.
I thought they were married, but I could be wrong.
They totally could be. I guess, like, I don't know, for some reason, Toni Collette, I know she's a little bit older, but she doesn't strike me as old as that guy. She strikes me as that's her father.
Oh.
That Pete was not with her, but she was caring for him because they're like daughter and
that could be something.
Father.
Yeah. Either way.
But yeah.
Yeah, do you want to talk about the carnival setup and all these different characters that with Toni Collette, with Willem Dafoe, with all these different like characters and like.
Sure. It's not your typical come into the tent and we're gonna do a bunch of stuff. It's more like a like a festival or like a fair that you can go visit, and like each person is kind of like a kiosk that shows you what they're doing, and maybe that is normally what a circus is. I always pictured it was like you go into the tent and
there's
they
an
do all
elephant.
the stuff,
Yeah.
you know. And so it's more of a
freak show almost.
yeah, come
Like-
see this show. It's like a amusement park almost.
Yeah.
Like you come and visit. It's got a Ferris wheel. It's got this. It's got
Yeah.
the attractions. And so yeah, they do a good job of just setting it up that like it's a everyone there is got some sort of like unique
Gimmick. Yeah.
thing, but it definitely doesn't pay super well, or at least at the time. I mean, I guess at the time maybe $1 was like, whoa, this is insane, but
Yeah, it seemed like it was 1930s.
They were kinda
37.
talking about
It was
wars.
Depression era.
yeah, you're right.
So like $1, people would do whatever they could for $1.
Okay, so yeah, okay. Then maybe they were kind of a better off circus, but it felt like it was a pretty bare bones. Like they got by, they did the exact minimum that they could to be profitable, you know, that sort of thing. And you get to just kind of, you don't see like the motives of everyone, but you do get a lot more in this first act with Willem Dafoe, who's kind of like the main dude who's connected to the geek, the man or beast, whoever.
How can you
and
tell?
you get to learn like how he became a carny and like the manipulation he does. You find out that the geek is not a disformed or like
It's just a dude.
It's just a drunk that he found that he basically like kept getting drunk so that he would be able to control him and manipulate him into being this beast, you know? It's just like,
dang.
whoa, wild. And then he tells Bradley Cooper how he does it. He's like, I find the best drunk, and then I just give him a little bit of like opium, a little bit of opium, a little bit of alcohol, a little opium, and I just basically drug him into the state where he is begging me for a job because he's ruined his entire life. And you're just like, whoa, that was heavy.
Yeah.
That was really heavy. And like, no remorse.
Yeah.
Willem Dafoe can thread that needle of just like being this energetic, could be a good guy, but he just never is. You can just never trust Willem Dafoe. I bet he's like a gentleman in real life, but it's just like, dang, dude.
He's just got like...
You are a sinister man.
Yeah.
Like 98% of the time.
Yeah, I don't know if I've seen a movie where he's like genuine like the hero or whatever.
Was he ever like a good guy in any of the Wes Anderson movies?
Not that I can remember.
Was he in French Dispatch?
I don't think he was.
I don't think he was either. He's in a lot of those, but Life Aquatic, I don't know if...
I haven't seen it.
I haven't seen it either.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But yeah, I think just like performance-wise, like you kind of spend time with mostly Willem Dafoe, just like him understanding this world and understanding this mentalism.
Yeah.
And like throughout it, you're kind of like, oh, there's something more to this. Like, is there, like for me at least, I'm like, there's like some kind of power. Like, is there like something more? Like, is there something that is like negative power at hand that's like these people are tapping into? To me, I'm like, oh, there's something more mystical going on. And maybe there's a hint of that where it's like they're dealing with things that are out of their control, almost in a sense. And they try to control it.
They're definitely toying with it a little bit. I mean, they try to... You basically learn that the mentalism is all a hoax because they figure out a way to jerry-rig it so that they actually can say the right things. They have coded language, and you figure out the trick.
Yeah, like they talk a certain way,
but they do a very good job of setting you up to be like, you have to be careful, because if you do impress people and you do it in the wrong way, people will kind of treat you with like godhood and not just you're a human being who maybe said something that was right. You know what I mean? And they call that the spook show, where you're making it basically a spiritual experience for the person. They're like, well, now I will worship you, essentially, because you've now given me something that no one else can. And so they acknowledge that and say like, hey, we got to be careful. We got to like sell it as a show, but we can never cross that line, because if you do, you might actually believe that you do have this power. And while I would say that sometimes they kind of like are saying that this thing is happening in the background, I think by the end of this movie you realize, well, there is no actual power, because if there was, he could have harnessed it and never have done a bad thing.
Right, but I think, like, and this is probably just something that isn't even said in the movie, I think, like, it's almost like payback. The power is like, oh, you're trying to, like, wield it, and so, like, everything goes wrong. Like, you flew too close to the sun.
Sure. Yeah, I mean...
And that's just, like, whatever. That's not, I don't think that's the main point of the movie. I'm just, like, when...
I just don't think he ever did anything supernatural.
No,
he faked everything.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't know what power he possessed except for the sins of his past basically caught up with him. And it's like, you can't continue. This will eventually catch up to you. Which is what I think they warned him of. Was like, don't use this for selfish gain apart from just this show where we do the bare minimum to just impress people. They could have played it like, let's use the language to go even further and go further and further, and they tried to just be very surface level. Let's just tell people, like, hey, I know you have a brother because you wrote this letter that says you have a brother. Let's leave it at that, you know? And then Bradley Cooper, you can see when he finally flips the switch and is like, you have a brother, but I'm going to dive in and I'm going to be like, he wants to speak to you. And it's like, whoa, hold on, dude.
That's
like,
too much.
You're dealing with it. You can't do that. So I think it's temptation is the power.
Yeah.
I think is what you're seeing. And there's a lot of symbolism to that. Like, he enters to see the geek when he's searching for him. He's in the like
sins.
row of damnation, and like the devil's mouth opens up and he enters. And so it is enticing. It is like tempting, and he realizes, ooh, this is my next fix. Yeah. And while he makes it very clear that he's not an alcoholic, how could he ever be? He's not going to touch this stuff. He is addicted to something. Power. To the point where once he finally has it, then he actually can give himself over to alcohol and give himself over to everything.
And he just falls.
Yep.
So I think let's close the book on our first act here. I would like to ask what you thought of the relationship. Like, were you buying it? Like, I think there was nice flirty. I was like, oh, I get it enough.
It came out of left field.
Yeah, I get it enough, but then it's like, run away with me. I'm like, okay.
That's one of the weaker parts of this film.
I agree.
Is they establish that he kind of gets his flirt on with this other lady. And it's really to set up the scene that she's like, I think you're up to no good. Even though so far we have no reason to think that you're a bad person, Bradley Cooper. And I think that's just to plant seeds for us to be like, why is he no good? And that's it. Yeah. But for me, by making their relationship sexual right from the start, I'm like, why would he now just leave her, who he's working with, who they have a great relationship with? All of a sudden, he's like, I'm going to go help out the girl who electrocutes herself. Why? Why not just go ahead and let Toni Collette's character be the love interest? Right. And avoid all of the extra. Yeah, Toni Collette has like a scene later on that like sets up his destiny, but you totally could have written those two characters together.
Yeah, I don't get I don't get that dynamic. I don't get. I think it's like for the relationship that does end up occurring, like it is the innocence that I think that he's taking this innocence basically of this woman, and
that's fair.
And he corrupts her. But I just don't get like why I think she's it's like basically probably first love, right? She's infatuated with him, and she's like, I'll do whatever you want, right? And then she ultimately, like, I think she does grow as a character, but she was the one I was talking about earlier. It's like I wanted more from her.
For sure.
More development. I think like I don't know, the Toni Collette and her, it's just like
she was a means to an end. Unfortunately, I felt like it was to get him out of the carnival. It was to get him to do this, but like it just she was unfortunately the vehicle for. I think her purpose was basically like his last shred of hope. Yeah. And when he finally made all of the decisions, and she finally goes, "I'll help you this one last time." That's it. Yeah. It's it. Just shows you that it's over. Like he's run his course. His forgiveness has run out.
Mhm.
Like he has crossed the line too many times to go back now,
Mhm.
which allows him to then do what he does in the third act. So we'll get into that, but no, I would say that I don't see why she had to be separate from the psychic.
Sure.
I think it would have made it a little bit cleaner.
Maybe, but like if it was the it couldn't have been the psychic any relation to him because she would have stopped him. She wouldn't have gone with the trick because she's like, I know the damage that this can do.
That's fair. No, I
think it has to be this innocent person.
Sure.
I just don't think that relationship was strong.
Whoever was naive enough to go with him.
Yes,
that's
in
fair.
a sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think maybe that is why he's like, oh, here's this.
Or she's just related to the psychic dude, and she doesn't do the psychic act, and Pete is solely the psychic thing.
Sure.
Or something. I don't know.
Yeah, there's a way to write around that.
I think so.
Yeah, definitely. But
so that's probably what I would have changed is there was just this like weird beat where it's like, why did you have to hook up with her? That doesn't make any sense. It just kind of makes things murky.
Yeah.
I think it does allow you to show that like he's not perfect.
I think it's leading into just he's into this temptation. Like he's like he just does whatever he wants. He can't stop himself.
Sure.
Right. He
Fair
like
enough.
seeks this out. So ultimately in the second act where he's like when this other woman comes along,
yeah,
he's like, "Oh,
yeah, that's right.
Now I'm chasing after you."
Yeah.
And ultimately like being
that beat
terrible
is needed
to his wife.
Just show like the snowball starting.
Yeah, I think
Fair enough.
Maybe.
I like it.
Second act, I do think is the weakest, though it is enjoyable in a sense of like
I
like seeing their show, and they're like fighting, and it's like ultimately, and then they start like even to the point of like, where would you start the third act? Where would you say the third act starts?
I would say when he has finally set up the final meeting with the rich dude.
I agree. Yeah.
That's when the third act starts.
Because even like the setup of him continuing to go to his house, I'm like, okay, I got where this is going. And well, then the rich guy's like, oh, I want to see her. I need to see. And it's like, oh, okay. And that's when like the ball starts rolling. But before that, it's like, okay, we're doing this mentalist show, and he's becoming a bad person, and then it's like, okay, well now he's like sleeping with this other girl, and she's like the character you were talking about earlier, like she's just playing along, and
right. There's a lot of heavy assumption you have to make as a viewer to understand her motives. I think she's not very clear on why she does what she does until the end. Yeah. So I would say the weakest part of the second act was you do a time jump, and I don't think it gives you a chance to see his snowball continue. It's kind of like he kind of did this thing and then ran off with a girl. And then 2 years later,
he's a terrible person.
All of a sudden, he's like, you know what? We're pushing the envelope. It's like, whoa, where did that come from?
Yeah. Oh, that's a great point. Because like I do agree that the time jump is probably the weakest point. Because it's like, hey, we're starting off on the road. Then it's 2 years later, and now he's just the worst person. And it's like, I want to see.
And she's burnt out.
Yeah, and she's burnt out.
We're
it's
not.
Like, we're not. Yeah, this just started. Like, right. I think if we like did like a year ahead, like give us the time jump to establish, but then they keep doing it, and then you see him devolve a little more into this character.
Mm-hmm.
That would have been an more interesting second act for me. I think.
Yep.
Wow. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think that's great.
Then he runs into Cate Blanchett, who is like this psychologist who
works for this other rich guy.
Works for the rich guy that's during one of his mentalist shows and kind of like pushes him to see if he's truly as good as he is, it says, and that entices him because he can no longer rely on the game. He has to now rely on his own power, and then he gets it right, and he goes, oh, shit, I'm the man.
Yes.
And that's when the temptation clicks, and he's like, uh-oh, I can actually do this. I do have the power. I am God.
Right.
And it's like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
Here we go. And you don't know anything about her except for they have clearly chemistry and attraction to each other because they're Cate Blanchett and Bradley Cooper. It's
Sure.
like, okay, the writing's on the wall. Got it. And you kind of get to know more about her character, but this is where I would have liked more is you can tell she's definitely been wronged by some man in her past.
Sure, with the scar and everything.
Right. But her only motive is to find a man who thinks he's powerful and then show him that she's more powerful than him.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think it did the best job of, like, I don't think we spent enough time with her to clearly understand her motive. So when she does flip the switch and is like, guess what? I'm the villain as well.
Mm-hmm.
You're just like, well, I know you have a scar on your body, but, like, was I supposed to connect all of those dots that you're taking down men with power because a man with power hurt you?
Yeah, I think the less we know about a character, almost the better, because it makes that turn more.
I think it's surprising for sure.
Because, like, if we're like, I don't know, it would be nice to maybe like have an extra scene of her and maybe like understand what he thought her motive was. Because initially, like, when she's like, I don't want the money, I don't want any of this, I'm like, wow, that's very nice of you, I guess.
Yeah.
And so it's like, at least if she was doing the money, it would make sense, like, she's at least keeping him along. And or like making some kind of profit out of this, other than like, oh, Bradley Cooper, you're just so handsome and you have this power.
Yeah.
So like, if she was like along for the ride a little bit more, other than like, I'm doing this out of the generosity of my heart to like just help you because I think you're the greatest.
Yeah.
That could be something. And then the twist happens where it's like, oh, I'm actually in control. I've been in control this entire time.
Yeah. I mean, I think he falls into the trap perfectly, and it makes sense why he would. I just am still confused on why this psychiatrist wants to. I mean, it sounds like the cool thing about it is, like, how could somebody be psychotic who is trying to help the people who struggle with, like, mental health? So she is the least person you would suspect. So I suppose that sets you up for, like, she's really protective of her client's privacy, except for when it, like, benefits her. So she's kind of shady. But he probably should have seen the writing on the wall. If she's willing to sell out these guys, why would she not also do that to you? And so maybe for me, it's just like, it didn't feel like you connected the dots well enough to be like, and now I'm the bad guy. But maybe that's okay. Maybe it's okay to trust your viewer to connect some of those dots.
Yeah, I think the trusting of the viewer is good, and ultimately I think like there was this shadiness of her that when the twist happens, it's like, oh, I should have seen this coming, because of course.
Yeah, and it hides itself under affection and passion. So you're kind of like, is she just being shady because they're just attracted to each other, or is she shady because she's got other? And you just kind of forget about it because you're like, well, I think she's just seducing him. We don't know why yet, but well.
You just kind of assume there's so much else going on.
Yeah.
You're just kind of like assuming like, okay, cool. They're just like.
Yeah, and this is where the clear case of like why there still are monsters in these movies.
Oh, let's go.
Versus, seeing like practical monsters, This movie does a good job of being like,
aren't we all just monsters?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much. Like we all have, our vices and whatnot, but like sometimes like the scariest monsters might, be the most tempting to you, or like the scariest person is the one that you like trust wholeheartedly, and they betray you. Like he toys around with this idea of what a monster truly is, and you get to explore that through many characters. You have the innocent. Who's his like wife? What's her name? I mean, it's Rooney Mara.
Rooney Mara.
Whatever. Yeah, I mean that's the actress, but the monster she falls in love with is, well, she picked a man who will put power over her. Will always pick power over her. And so she experiences the monster that way, and she's dealing with that. And then Cate Blanchett is like, I've seen a monster. I've looked the monster dead in the eye, and he tried to kill me.
I don't want to take it down.
And it created me as the monster of I'm going to take out all the monsters.
Yeah.
And then you have Bradley Cooper, who's like, my old man was a monster. I'll never be like him.
Mm-hmm.
And by trying to not be like him,
He became him.
I became him. Daddy issues 101, baby. Woo!
Oh,
You can never not be something by just trying not to do the same things.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, what a lesson.
Dang.
Bada bing, bada boom.
Bada bing, bada boom.
Love it.
Let's finally move into our third act.
Oh,
because my goodness,
the
this movie.
Whoa Baby Nice.
Yeah, the Whoa Baby Nice. Nick K. said
Act
it.
3, Whoa Baby Nice.
Yeah, this just went 11, and it just
And it didn't stop.
It did not stop, and it was awesome.
It was
honestly
awesome.
It was just like, oh, cool, they're doing like the ghost thing, and you know it's gonna go wrong.
Uh-huh.
And then like the rich guy's kind of like, oh, because like why does he want to talk to her again? Because it's like he like it kind of sounds like he accidentally like murdered her, and like you don't really know why. You thought like, oh, it's his daughter or something, so you don't really know why he wants to talk to her. But it's like he was like, it seems like a bunch of different girls, young girls, like he was doing
Evil
all kinds.
dude.
Yeah, evil dude. So it's just like, oh wait, something's wrong. And then he sees her, and then he finds out it's not real, and then Bradley Cooper punches. It's just like, oh, it just all tumbles.
Yeah.
I thought that was all excellently done.
I agree. I think I saw it coming, obviously. Like, I mean, I think as soon as he's like, I want to push the timeline, I paid you a fortune, do what I want, you know, I was like, okay, he's going to be rushed and something's going to be, like, everything he's done so well is through preparation. Like, you have to admit, like, he didn't, putting in the work was never his fault, you know, like, his fault was that he put too much trust in his own ability, you know, but I do think he did the work. So when he finally has no control of the timeline, his work gets sloppy, and it goes south, you know, and so you start to see that he can be a successful monster if given the time, but when he doesn't have the time, he can't successfully be the hero everyone wants him to be. Yeah. So.
Oh, man, I think what actually too kind of started off the shockingness was the other couple he talks to with the dead son.
That's right. Yeah.
And he's like, I figured out a way that we can see him.
Boom, boom.
Oh, I'm like, oh,
yep.
Whoa.
And the crazy thing is that they warn you about it from the very start. It's like, hey, don't do the spook show because it can only end badly.
Yeah, it corrupts.
Like they set the stage so well, and Bradley Cooper is convinced, even though he told them lies, that it probably fixed their marriage and probably gave them this false peace that will help them live a long, healthy life. What unfortunately false peace gave them was a lie that made the mom who misses their son so deeply go, well, then the only solution is to go see him. So let's go see him. And then they take each other out. And you're just like, what the, dude?
Yeah, that one was
that
like,
is
oh,
wild.
This movie's going crazy. All right.
And so you just know, like, he's gone off the deep end because he truly believes that by giving people lies, they'll somehow find the truth. And it's like, no, that's not. Two wrongs don't make a right, bro.
Yeah.
Like, and so telling people wrong stuff doesn't make it right, you know. And
no, it just shows the effects of like what he's really doing. And so I was like, as shocking as it is, I was like, that's what needed to happen. Where it's just like, oh, jeez.
Well, and the beautiful thing that I like about this movie is it starts with such a heinous act of like sin on Bradley Cooper's part that because he truly like, and this is okay, I don't mean I love it because of how like dark it is, but it's like he's burning down the house that his dad, who he hates, is in. I think he truly believes if I can erase it, it will never come back to haunt me because I destroyed it. But that stuff lives with you. When you do something that you're not supposed to do to someone, it doesn't go away.
Right.
It just has to go somewhere. And he tricked himself into thinking, and I think that's what the fire was supposed to be, is like, how could anyone trace this if I just destroy it? Now on to the next thing. How could anyone trace me if I leave it? Okay, on to the next thing. How could anyone trace me if we do the ghost? But the worst part of it is every time he's like, I can do this, he keeps getting closer and closer and closer to making a mistake. Like he has to like
be perfect. Yeah.
Well, it has to be perfect, but it's like I mean, if I could, the theme of this movie is temptation, but it's like temptation eventually just leads him to basically going like, I'm about to make a mistake and it's right in front of your face.
Yeah.
Hopefully you don't see it. He just gets too gutsy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was with one dude in one room in a house that no one was looking at him.
Right. Now everyone's looking at him.
Now it's a carnival with a bunch of people looking at him, and now he got out. Now it's a show with a bunch of people looking at him, and now it's an intimate ceremony with a guy who's like 4 feet away from a girl who's not his wife, and
Not
you're just
supposed
like,
to be real.
he just keeps towing that line of like, you will get found out because you keep bringing too many people into this, and so it eventually like caught up with him.
Yeah,
you
like
know?
the consequences of your actions, the sins of your past, right?
So good.
Yeah, I think ultimately leading up to him becoming this, he's drunk with power and literally drunk. And he gets screwed over.
Yep.
By Kate Blanchett. And then goes on the run.
Yeah.
Becomes a drunk.
Yep.
Comes desperate.
Yep.
And comes full circle.
It comes full circle, and he gets offered a job to be a geek in a circus.
This is what I was born for.
Dude, and I tell you what, okay, so the beginning of this movie, he sees the geek, and you can tell it's just like, what a shameful thing that this guy is, right?
Mm-hmm. But he has some kind of sympathy, some like connection to him.
Sure.
But yeah.
But like, never could be like that, you know?
Oh,
like,
yeah. Oh,
you know?
Yeah.
And what's crazy is that like probably every other geek that has fallen for it
thought the same thing,
but they weren't given the wisdom of how it would happen. And what's worse about becoming a geek when you know how they get you to become a geek and you still say yes is what doubles down and makes that scene so special. When he says yes, he starts crying because he's like, I have lived this. I know exactly what you're doing to me, and I still say yes.
Yeah.
That is insane.
So good.
That's like that's double dark.
Mm-hmm. There's
like,
so much.
You're gonna make
into that.
me eat chickens in front of people. You're gonna make me die of like some disease. He knows what he's about to become, how they're going to do it to him, and he's like, but I get a shot of alcohol, and I know what you're gonna do to me. F it, let's do it.
Yeah.
That's like way worse.
Yeah. No, it's his desperation is probably even the highest of all the geeks or whatever. So it's like he knows all this going into it, and he's like, yes, I need this. I was born for this.
Wow.
Dude, yes, that last scene, 20 out of 10, dude. It's awesome. It's so good.
Oh, dude, I could not get over it. I was just like, there's that realization. He starts to cry, but he just laughs until the movie ends. Good on you, Bradley Cooper, because that was insane, dude.
Crushed it.
That scene alone was like, I don't care what you think of this movie. If you watch from start to finish and you look at that end scene and you don't think that that's at least somewhat of a masterpiece of just like good storytelling, get out of here.
Yeah, well, that's
no matter
exactly
what
why.
the faults we have, that's why it's like a 7. It's like, yes, because that part alone of the storytelling and it achieving what it did at the end. That's why. That's why we can like crap on all of the stuff that we have and still say it's a good movie, because that's insane.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, that's the same boat. It's like hard to say it in non-spoilers, but it's just like the circle, completing the circle. Oh, it crushes it. Now there's some jagged edges in the middle, and I'm like, oh, it's not a perfect circle, but when it connects, oh boy, it works.
That scene alone is where you're like, so that's how the Academy saw it, and we're like, damn, all right, throw it on there.
Yep, put it in there.
Throw it on there.
Man.
Woof, dude.
It's great.
The acting is phenomenal in this movie. There's no bad performances that I would...
Yeah.
Maybe... No,
everyone does their part, I think, so it does it well.
Yeah. And the ones that, if I would change, don't affect the story all that much. I think I would like a little bit more time with some of the characters that we didn't get.
Yeah.
I would maybe make the first act a little shorter so that you can spend more time in that time travel, not time travel, but
Time jump.
scene. Give us 5 more minutes in a year later or something, 5-10 minutes later, or 5-10 minutes more, and less of the I randomly fell in love with this girl all of a sudden and all that stuff. It's like,
yeah, I think
maybe just get good at your act and leave. I don't know.
Get good. Yeah,
I don't know,
something like that. I agree with like, maybe they get put together to start this act or something, and then they go off.
Sure.
And that's sure.
I
agree. I think like honestly, if this movie, I don't even think like it's 2.5 hours, but like I didn't feel that long. In the middle, it felt long, but like overall, I'm like, I could use 5 or 10 more minutes, honestly.
Sure.
If you move it to where that jump is pretty much the biggest flaw, I think, with the movie. If like you do what we said about like having us see the decline of him a little more in that point and continuing, like we don't see that beginning of their first 2 years of them doing things. So I think if we could see that like 5-10 minutes more, great.
Yeah. No, I totally agree.
Yeah.
But no, that end is wild. Super well done. And just, you're given everything, and it's not ham-fisted. Like, you're not like, why are you telling me this random story of why you got geeks? Well, no, we did a story on why he got the geek, so we didn't have to, and it didn't seem like it was set up for like later on this will make sense.
Yeah.
Find out in an hour and a half. But man, when he accepts, dude, you're just like,
let's just
you
say
have
Bradley
tried
Cooper
to outrun
accepts.
your past, and it's almost like this acceptance of like, yeah, I deserve it, to the point where I'm like, yeah, I was born for this. Like, I think I was inevitably supposed to become this.
Yeah.
Dude, what?
Yes, dude, it's insane.
What a piece of cinema that you'll just like never forget. That's a banger.
Yeah, this is why we watch movies, man.
This is why we watch movies.
Yeah.
It also like rewards you for kind of like paying attention. It feels good when you're like, I connected the dots, and then you did this thing where you just like act and laugh and cry at the same time, and I feel everything, and I'm just like, how do you do that?
Yeah.
Like, how do you just like go in one day and it's like, oh, so we're doing the thing. Okay, I'm gonna laugh and cry. Here we go. And you're just like,
we're doing this.
They
We're doing that scene. Got it.
Bradley Cooper, dude. Hey.
Good on you.
GG's, Bradley Cooper.
GG's, BC.
GG's, BC. Good game, Bradley Cooper. But no, man. I mean, I think that's definitely would recommend. Definitely should check it out.
Let's just say House Not United recommends.
I agree. I would be interested to see if you've heard reviews on Nightmare Alley. It's been out for a while. But now you've heard from us. Not us. United.
That's right.
Boom.
See
Nightmare
you
Alley.
all next week. That's the sound of the nightmare.
That is.
You've just listened to Not Us United. You can find us under Not Us United on Spotify, iTunes, and YouTube. Please leave us a review and consider subscribing to our podcast. You can reach out for future podcast topic suggestions at notusunitedpod@gmail.com.